The echo of footsteps bounced off concrete walls in the underground parking garage. Cold, sterile, the kind of place where screams disappeared into nothing and security cameras watched from every angle. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows between rows of luxury vehicles that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. Three men in black tactical gear moved with military precision toward a woman in white. Their movements were coordinated, practiced, the kind of synchronization that came from professional training. Her designer dress caught the harsh fluorescent light like a beacon in the darkness. Her back pressed against the cold metal of a Mercedes sedan. Her fingers clutched a leather handbag to her chest, as if it could somehow protect her from what was coming. Viviana Thorne, CEO of Thorne Industries, the most powerful woman in Silicon Valley. The woman whose decisions moved markets and shaped futures. The woman who had built an empire from nothing through sheer force of will. Right now, she looked like prey. 20 meters away, a janitor pushed a cleaning cart between rows of luxury vehicles. Gray uniform, slightly wrinkled. Forgettable face weathered by experiences no one bothered to ask about. The kind of man executives walk past without seeing. The kind of man who blended into walls and doorways and shadows like he had been born to be invisible. The lead attacker grabbed Viviana's wrist. His grip left white marks on her skin. His voice was a harsh whisper demanding compliance, promising violence if she resisted. The janitor stopped pushing his cart. His eyes changed. They were no longer the eyes of a maintenance worker content with his anonymous existence. They were the eyes of a predator who had spent 12 years hunting in the most dangerous places on earth. Eyes that had seen death delivered and received in equal measure. Eyes that calculated distance, angle, and vulnerability in the space between heartbeats. Eyes that belonged to a different man entirely. Brennan Caldwell moved. The wooden broom handle in his hands transformed into something lethal. What had been a cleaning tool became a weapon in the hands of someone who understood that anything could become deadly with the right training. His first strike connected with the lead attacker's solar plexus with devastating precision. The man folded like paper, gasping for air that wouldn't come, his grip on Viviana's wrist releasing instantly. Before he hit the ground, Brennan was already pivoting toward the second target with fluid grace. A joint lock executed with textbook perfection. A twist that used the attacker's own momentum against him. The sickening crack of a wrist breaking echoed through the concrete chamber like a gunshot. The third man reached inside his jacket with desperate speed. His fingers found a stun gun, pulling it free with the practiced motion of someone who had used it before. They never got the chance to deploy it. Brennan's foot connected with the man's forearm with surgical accuracy. The weapon skittered across concrete, spinning into darkness. A precise strike to the throat left the attacker choking and stumbling backward, hands clutching his neck. 30 seconds. 3 men on the ground, groaning, incapacitated, alive but barely functional. Brennan stood between Viviana and the fallen attackers like a wall of controlled violence. His breathing remained steady, controlled, as if he had just finished sweeping a hallway rather than neutralizing 3 armed professionals with a cleaning tool. He scanned the garage methodically, checked every shadow and corner, confirmed no additional threats lurked in the darkness waiting to strike. Then he turned to face the woman he had just saved. Viviana Thorne stared at him with wide eyes that held equal parts terror and amazement. Her perfectly composed CEO mask had shattered completely, revealing the vulnerable human beneath the corporate armor. Fear, shock, and underneath both a flicker of recognition that this man was not what he appeared to be. "Are you hurt?" His voice came out calm, almost gentle, a stark contrast to the violence he had just delivered. She shook her head slowly.
Just the janitor, ma'am.
Words seemed to have
You don't
abandoned
move
her
like a
entirely.
janitor.
"We need to call security and police." He moved toward the emergency phone mounted on the wall. His report was clear and concise. Location, situation, number of attackers and their current condition. No embellishment, no emotion. Just facts delivered with military precision. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer with each passing second. Viviana finally found her voice. It emerged as barely more than a whisper in the concrete silence of the garage. "Who are you?" Brennan paused at the edge of the light, his face half in shadow, his expression unreadable as stone. "Just the janitor, ma'am." He disappeared before she could ask anything else, melted into the darkness between concrete pillars like smoke dissolving into air. One moment he was there, solid and real and dangerous. The next moment, he had simply ceased to exist. Viviana stood alone among the groaning bodies of her would-be kidnappers. Police cars screeched into the garage with lights flashing. Officers flooded the space with flashlights and shouted commands. But her eyes stayed fixed on the security monitor mounted near the elevator bank. The screen was dark, completely black. No footage, no recording. Someone had disabled the cameras exactly 3 minutes before the attack began. Someone inside her company who knew the security protocols. Someone with high-level access. Someone she trusted. Someone wanted her dead. And the only person who had protected her was a ghost whose name she didn't even know. 12 hours earlier, the world had been simpler. Brennan Caldwell woke at 5:30 in the morning. His internal clock never needed an alarm. 12 years of Delta Force operations had programmed his body to function with a mechanical precision that civilian life couldn't erase. His apartment existed on the outskirts of Denver, small but immaculate, every item in its designated place, corners squared, surfaces clear of clutter. The habits of military life proved impossible to break, even 4 years after leaving that world behind. Some training went deeper than muscle memory. He moved through his morning routine with practiced efficiency. Shower, shave. The olive green military undershirt beneath his gray maintenance uniform served as a small connection to the man he used to be, a reminder that identity couldn't be shed like old skin. Breakfast required more creativity than combat ever had. Scrambled eggs appeared on a plate beside toast cut into the shape of a star. The edges weren't perfect. His large, calloused hands that had killed and healed in equal measure, lacked the delicate precision that had made these morning stars special. Emmy had always cut them perfectly. Every point symmetrical, every edge clean. Emmy, 4 years in the ground now, an aneurysm that came without warning and left without mercy. One moment she was grading kindergarten homework at the kitchen table, humming a song he couldn't remember anymore. The next moment she had simply slipped away, her hand still holding a red pen. Footsteps thundered down the hallway, small feet moving at maximum speed. Magnolia burst into the kitchen like a force of nature wrapped in pajamas. 8 years old, with wild curly hair that refused to be tamed and a gap-toothed smile that could illuminate the darkest rooms. Everyone called her Nola. She preferred it that way. "Daddy, today my class goes on a field trip to the building where you work." Brennan felt his face soften. The expression came naturally only for her. Only ever for her. She was the one person who could still reach the man buried beneath the soldier's discipline. Is that so? "Yes, we're learning about businesses and how companies work, and Mrs. Patterson said your building is really tall and has lots of important people." He poured orange juice into her favorite cup, the one with dancing elephants that Emmy had found at a garage sale 3 months before she died. Nola insisted on using it every single morning without exception. "Lots of important people," he agreed. "None more important than you." Nola rolled her eyes with all the dramatic flair an 8-year-old could muster. "Daddy, that doesn't even make sense. I'm not a business person." Not yet. She attacked her breakfast with enthusiasm while Brennan watched her eat, cataloging every detail. The way she tilted her head when thinking through a problem, the way her nose crinkled when she laughed at something only she found funny. The exact same gestures her mother had possessed, preserved in
But your
miniature
eyes are
form.
sad.
Brennan had
I run this
resigned
company.
his commission
Then don't
3
be
days
sad
after
anymore,
Emmy's funeral.
okay?
The missions, the kills, the constant dance with death in foreign lands, none of it made sense anymore. Not when his daughter needed a father more than his country needed another weapon. So he became invisible, a janitor in a corporate tower, anonymous, safe, present for every school pickup and bedtime story and star-shaped toast. It wasn't the life he had trained for, but it was the life Nola deserved. The parking garage of Thorne Industries hummed with quiet activity. Brennan pushed his cleaning cart past rows of vehicles that cost more than he would earn in a decade, their polished surfaces reflecting his gray uniform. His co-workers gathered near the maintenance closet, voices low with nervous energy about the day's unusual events. "CEO inspection today," Collins from security muttered, checking his watch repeatedly. "Viviana Thorne herself, coming down here to check the facilities personally. Heard she fired 3 VPs last month," another worker added, eyes wide. "One meeting, all 3 gone, just like that." "Ice Queen," Collins concluded with a shake of his head. Brilliant, sure, built this company from nothing into a tech giant, but cold as winter. Brennan continued his work without comment. Executive politics meant nothing to him. He had seen real power wielded in life and death situations, real conflict that ended with bodies rather than severance packages. Corporate maneuvering seemed like children playing games compared to the stakes of his former existence. The executive elevator chimed at exactly 10:45 with mechanical precision. Viviana Thorne emerged with two assistants frantically tapping tablets and speaking in hushed, urgent tones. She moved through the space like someone accustomed to commanding attention without asking for it. White blazer and skirt, impeccably tailored to her slender frame. Dark hair pulled back severely from a face that could have graced magazine covers. The kind of beauty that intimidated rather than welcomed. But Brennan noticed what others missed. What his training had taught him to see. The tightness around her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights spent worrying. The slight tremor in her fingers when she thought no one was watching. The way she held herself together through sheer force of will, like a structure bearing weight it was never designed to carry. This was a woman with secrets. A woman carrying weight she never let anyone see. The sound of small running feet interrupted the corporate theater with blessed chaos. Nola appeared around a corner, clearly separated from her field trip group. Her eyes widened when she spotted her father pushing his cart, then widened further when she noticed the imposing woman in white. "Daddy, I was looking for the bathroom and got lost, and then I saw you and—" She stopped mid-sentence, staring up at Viviana with undisguised curiosity that only children could possess. Brennan knelt beside his daughter, scanning for her classmates. "Your group is upstairs, sweetheart. How did you get all the way down here?" Before Nola could answer, Viviana stepped closer. Her expression shifted from executive authority to something softer, uncertain, human. "Is this your daughter?" Nola, never shy about meeting new people, extended her hand with the confidence of someone who had been taught her own worth from birth. "I'm Magnolia Caldwell, but everyone calls me Nola. Are you important here? You look important." She tilted her head, studying Viviana with intense focus. "But your eyes are sad." Something cracked in Viviana's carefully constructed armor. The observation had landed with unexpected precision, cutting through defenses built over decades. "I'm Viviana Thorne," she replied, her voice gentler than it had been all morning. "I run this company." "You're the boss of everyone? Even my dad?" "Yes." Nola's face lit up like sunrise breaking over mountains. "That's so cool. My dad always says girls can do anything they want." "You're proof that's true." For the first time that day, perhaps the first time in months, Viviana Thorne smiled, a genuine expression that transformed severity into warmth. A frantic teacher called Nola's name from the elevator. Brennan quickly explained the situation, assuring the flustered woman that his daughter was safe. As Nola rejoined her class, she turned back one more time with characteristic determination. "Miss Viviana, don't be sad anymore, okay? My dad says people who are sad just need to find the right person to smile with." The elevator doors closed on Nola's waving hand. Viviana stood motionless, her eyes glistening with something she quickly blinked away before anyone could notice. "You've raised a remarkable child, Mr. Caldwell." "Brennan, and thank you. She's the best of me." Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them. Recognition, perhaps, of kindred spirits. Two people who had built walls around their wounds, briefly glimpsing what lay behind each other's defenses. Then the moment passed like morning mist. Neither knew that somewhere above them, in a corner office with a view of the city, a man watched security footage with cold calculation. Desmond Kessler, CFO of Thorne Industries, lifted his encrypted phone with practiced secrecy. "Proceed tonight. She'll be alone in the garage at 6. On his desk sat a faded photograph. A woman with dark hair and kind eyes. The same bone structure as Viviana. The same gentle curve of her smile. Viviana's mother. The woman who had rejected Desmond Kessler 35 years ago and never known the hatred that rejection had planted. Well, 3 days after the attack, Viviana Thorne had not slept more than 2 hours at a stretch. Dark circles had formed beneath her eyes despite expensive concealer. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt hands grabbing her wrist with bruising force, smelled the garage's cold concrete and motor oil, heard footsteps approaching from shadows that seemed to multiply in darkness. Her security team had failed spectacularly. The police investigation had stalled completely. 3 hired criminals with extensive records but no apparent connection to anyone she knew. But the cameras. The cameras had been disabled from inside the building. Someone she trusted wanted her dead. The private investigator's report arrived on day 3, delivered in a plain manila envelope. Brennan Caldwell, 38 years old, 12 years Delta Force, the Army's elite special operations unit, 3 tours in Afghanistan at the height of the conflict, Distinguished Service Cross for actions that remained classified at the highest levels. Then nothing. His military record simply ended with a single notation: separated. Reason: classified. Not retired, not honorably discharged. Separated. The word carried implications that the report couldn't explain. Viviana found him in a service stairwell, the one place in the building without cameras. She had checked personally. "Mr. Caldwell, I've been looking for you." He turned from the light fixture he was repairing. No surprise on his face. He had known she was coming before she appeared. "I know who you used to be, Delta Force, combat veteran, decorated soldier with a classified service record." She watched his profile carefully for reaction. "I need your help. I don't do that kind of work anymore." His voice carried finality. "Someone inside my company tried to have me kidnapped, maybe killed. The cameras were disabled from within this building by someone with high-level access." Her voice cracked despite her efforts. "I haven't slept in 3 days. Every shadow looks like an attacker." Brennan met her eyes with steady assessment. "You have resources. Hire professionals." "I don't trust professionals anymore." Viviana pulled back her sleeve. The bruises had faded from purple to yellow. "You're the only person who helped me when everyone else stood frozen. The only person I trust." "You don't know me." "I know enough." Brennan shook his head slowly. "I left that world for a reason, Ms. Thorne. I have a daughter who needs a father who comes home every night. Not a soldier, not a killer." "You're not a killer. You're a protector. There's a difference." She offered triple his current salary. 1 month only. Business hours so he could pick up Nola from school. "It's not about money." "Then what?" "My wife died 4 years ago. After the funeral, I looked at my daughter and realized I couldn't keep living a life where death followed me everywhere I went." Viviana nodded slowly. "I understand. I'm sorry for asking." She turned to leave, defeated. "But whoever disabled those cameras knew exactly what they were doing," Brennan added quietly. "This wasn't random. You were hunted by someone who knows you. They'll try again until they succeed." Boom! That evening, Brennan sat with Nola at their small kitchen table. Math homework spread between them like a battlefield. Nola's pencil tapped against the table rhythmically. "You're thinking about the lady in white." "What?" "I saw her on TV after school. Bad people tried to hurt her." Nola's expression grew serious beyond her years. "Did you save her, Daddy?" "Yes." "And she's still scared?" "Yes." Nola set down her pencil with deliberate care. "You know what Mommy told me once, before she went to sleep forever?" Brennan's throat tightened painfully. "She said you have a superpower. Your superpower is helping people who are scared. That's what makes you special." Emmy had said exactly that. After he stopped a mugging on their anniversary, she had watched with her hand pressed over her mouth. Afterward, she had looked at him with such pride it made his chest ache. Emmy had shared those words with Nola, planted them in their daughter's heart like a seed waiting to bloom. "I think Miss Viviana needs your superpower, Daddy. It might mean being away more often." Nola considered this with the gravity of a Supreme Court justice. "Mrs. Whitmore can watch me after school. She's nice and always has cookies." She paused thoughtfully. "And Mommy would want you to help. She always helped people, remember?" Brennan pulled his daughter into a fierce hug. "When did you get so smart?" "I was always smart, Daddy. You just weren't paying
I
attention."
don't do that kind of work anymore.
The first
Someone
week
inside this
passed
building
with
disabled
careful
the cameras.
observation.
Then you're being hunted
Brennan
by
built
someone who
detailed
knows you.
profiles on everyone with access to both security systems and financial records. 4 suspects emerged from his analysis. The most trusted among them, Desmond Kessler, CFO, 58 years old, had mentored Viviana for 12 years since plucking her from a job fair. The financial irregularities appeared during his second week of investigation. Someone had been siphoning money from the security budget for 2 years. $2.3 million had vanished into offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Late one evening, Brennan found Viviana alone in her office. City lights glittered through floor-to-ceiling windows like earthbound stars. "Someone with high-level access has been stealing from you for years," he said, presenting his findings. "The amounts match the timeline of your security vulnerabilities perfectly." Viviana studied the documents with trembling hands. "Why? I've given everything to this company." She turned toward the windows, her reflection ghosting against the glass. "My father was a drunk, a mean one who got worse when he drank. Her hand moved unconsciously toward her neck. When I was 16, he threw a bottle at me in a rage. She pulled her hair aside, revealing a scar running from behind her ear to her collarbone. I packed a bag and left that night. Never went back. The pause stretched between them, filled with shared understanding. Desmond found me at a job fair when I was 22, working putting myself through community college. He saw something in me, mentored me, fought for me when the board wanted someone with more experience. Her voice caught on the words. He's been like a father to me, the father I never had. Emmy, my wife, she used to say something, Brennan said, moving to stand beside her at the window. Don't live to prove something, live to love something. Their hands rested on the window ledge, close but not quite touching. Their fingers touched, neither pulled away. Brennan's phone shattered the moment with its harsh ringtone. The following afternoon, Brennan taught Viviana basic self-defense in the executive gym. Empty, private, her request. When someone grabs your wrist, rotate toward their thumb, the weakest point of any grip. He adjusted her stance, stepping behind her to correct her posture. His hands guided her shoulders into proper alignment. Now turn. She rotated, found herself inches from his chest, close enough to feel warmth radiating from his body. Neither moved. His gaze dropped to her lips. She tilted her chin upward. The gym lights hummed overhead, indifferent to the electricity crackling between them. His phone shattered the moment again. They stepped apart, hearts pounding for reasons that had nothing to do with exercise. The trap was elegant in its simplicity. Viviana announced fabricated information to each suspect individually, different details that would serve as fingerprints if the information leaked. Within 24 hours, Desmond Kessler made an encrypted phone call to an untraceable number. She knows too much. Implement Plan B, no mistakes this time. But Brennan dug deeper into records spanning 3 decades. 30 years ago, Desmond had hired someone to befriend Marcus Thorne, Viviana's father, to introduce him to gambling and ensure his drink was never empty, to whisper poison about his wife's faithfulness. The bottle that had scarred Viviana's neck wasn't just her father's drunken rage. It was Desmond Kessler's 30-year revenge delivered through a broken man. 35 years ago, Desmond proposed to your mother, Brennan explained gently. She refused, chose your father instead. He never forgave that rejection. Everything he did for you was part of his revenge against your family. He destroyed my childhood, drove my father to become a monster, then swooped in to save me. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. I spent 12 years being grateful to the man who ruined my life. Viviana's phone buzzed, a message from Desmond. Need to meet. Urgent, your office now. The executive floor was dark when they arrived. Desmond stood in Viviana's office, backlit by city lights, the picture of concerned mentorship. I know, Desmond, about everything, about my mother. The concerned mentor vanished instantly. Something cold and ancient took his place. Your mother should have been mine. She chose my father. She chose wrong. The words exploded from decades of festering resentment. His hand moved toward his phone threateningly. Your janitor has secrets too.
You're thinking
Brennan
about the
Caldwell,
lady in white.
dishonorably discharged from military
Mom
service.
said your superpower
One
is helping
call,
scare
and his
people.
daughter learns what kind of man her father really is. The door creaked open behind them. Brennan's phone had died hours ago. Mrs. Whitmore, unable to reach him, had grown worried and driven Nola to the building. The night guard recognized the girl from her field trip and let her up. Nola stood in the doorway, clutching her backpack. Daddy, you said 15 minutes. It's been 22. I was worried. Everything changed in that moment. Brennan moved toward Desmond with deadly calm. Make your call, but understand this. There is nothing I will not do to protect my daughter. The man I used to be is still here, right beneath the surface. Desmond's hand trembled visibly. Viviana stood with sudden authority. While you were making threats, Desmond, you forgot who taught me to think strategically. She held up her phone, displaying an active call. The board has been listening to every word. The FBI received my evidence package an hour ago. This entire conversation has been recorded. The elevator chimed. FBI agents flooded the floor with weapons drawn. Desmond Kessler, you are under arrest for embezzlement, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and corporate espionage. Kessler lunged desperately toward Viviana. Brennan intercepted him with a single precise joint lock that ended the threat instantly. Handcuffs clicked around Kessler's wrists as agents took custody. Your mother should have been mine, he screamed as they dragged him away. Viviana's voice carried with quiet power. My mother chose. She didn't choose you. Live with that in prison. Later, Viviana found Brennan by the window. Dishonorable discharge. Were you going to tell me? My last mission. Orders came to leave behind 23 civilians, women and children, as acceptable collateral damage. I refused. Led them across 12 kilometers of hostile territory to safety. You saved them all. Every single one. The military wanted to court-martial me for insubordination. When those civilians told journalists their story, they buried the whole thing instead. Viviana took his hand firmly. You disobeyed orders to save innocent lives. That's something to be proud of. Upademo. Nola ran toward them, chocolate smeared across her cheek from the break room. Daddy, Miss Viviana, is everyone okay? Viviana knelt to her level without caring about her expensive dress. Your daddy was very brave. Of course, he's a superhero, he just doesn't wear a cape. Nola studied Viviana's face with intense focus. Miss Viviana, are you still sad? Why do you ask? Before, your eyes were sad, but now they're brighter. My mom said eyes only get bright when people find their family. Nola looked from Viviana to Brennan with determination. Do you want to be in our family? I don't have a mom. You don't have a family. Daddy needs someone to smile with, so we could be family for each other. Viviana's tears fell freely for the first time in years. Brennan knelt beside them both. Nola, that's not really how it works. Why not? He had no answer. Neither did Viviana. 1 year later, a modest plaque hung beside the community center entrance. Emmeline Caldwell Scholarship Fund for the children of those who serve. Helping scared people is a superpower. Emmy Caldwell. Brennan stood beside Viviana as the ribbon was cut. On her left hand, a simple engagement ring caught the morning light. Nola appeared clutching a crayon drawing, 3 figures holding hands beneath a yellow sun. Above them in careful letters, my family. I wanted Mommy Emmy to know we're okay, that Daddy found his smile again. Brennan knelt and pulled his daughter close. She knows, sweetheart, she always knew. That evening, 3 place settings adorned the kitchen table. Nola taught Viviana to cut toast into star shapes with serious concentration. Press harder at the points. That's how Mommy did it. Viviana's stars emerged lopsided, but Nola pronounced them acceptable. You're getting better. By next year, you'll be almost as good as Mommy. Brennan watched from the doorway, heart full. You're staring, Viviana said. I'm appreciating. He wrapped his arms around her from behind. Emmy said proving yourself is a prison. Loving someone is freedom. Viviana leaned back against his chest. I spent years trying to prove I wasn't worthless. Now I understand that things worth having can only be received. Nola squeezed between them with practiced ease. This is my favorite part of the day, where we're all together, where it feels like home. Viviana and Brennan's eyes met over their daughter's head. It is home, Viviana said softly. Finally. Golden light spilled across the kitchen as the sun set. It touched 3 figures standing together, 3 people who had found each other against impossible odds. 4 years ago, Brennan believed his life ended when Emmy died. He had been wrong. Life didn't end. It transformed, found new shapes when you stopped holding so tightly to what was lost. Daddy, can we have stars for breakfast and dinner? He laughed. The sound came easily now, natural and unforced. I think we can manage that. And in a small apartment on the outskirts of Denver, 3 people who had once been broken sat down to share a meal. Not because they had to, because they had chosen each other, because they had found their way home. Epilogue. 6 months after the wedding, Brennan stood in the parking garage of Thorne Industries. Not as a janitor, not anymore. Viviana had created a position for him, Director of Corporate Security, because protecting people was what he did, what Emmy had recognized as his superpower. The garage looked different now. Better lighting, more cameras, a security team he had trained personally. No dark corners where predators could hide. He walked past the spot where he had first saved Viviana. The concrete still bore faint marks from that night. Reminders not of danger, but of possibility. His phone buzzed with a text from Viviana. Nola's school play tonight. Don't be late. She's playing the lead tree. He smiled. Wouldn't miss it. She wants you to wear the green tie, so you match. Tell her I will. She also wants to know if Miss Emmy will be watching from heaven. Brennan's chest tightened. He typed, tell her yes, Emmy watches everything, and she's proud of all of us. He took one last look around the garage, the place where everything changed, where 2 wounded souls had begun to heal. The elevator doors opened. Viviana stood inside wearing a green dress. Coming? She asked softly. Brennan stepped in. took her hand gently in his. Always. The elevator rose toward the light, carrying them upward toward the family waiting at home. And somewhere beyond the clouds, Emmy Caldwell smiled at the family she had helped create through a single phrase given to a little girl with wild curly hair and a gap-toothed smile. Some stories end with happily ever after. This one ended with something better. This one ended with home.
The story illustrates the greatest lesson. True strength lies not in power or money, but in the ability to protect and heal others when they are at their weakest. The seemingly invincible CEO can still become a victim, because the most dangerous person is sometimes not out on the street, but within the very heart of the one we trust. The man chooses anonymity to be with his child, but his good nature doesn't disappear. It's just waiting for the right reason to reappear. Most notably, the little girl is the quickest to see the truth. Everyone can be afraid, and everyone deserves help. When people dare to prioritize compassion over fear, they not only save others, but also save themselves from loneliness.